Okay, so I just want to talk about competition. Looks like many of you got your research into me, and I will return it to you on Monday. It's important that you keep going at this point. Now, I noticed that the videos are being watched. You know, I can see how many people watch each video, so it's kind of it can be a bit surprising to me. You always look like you're about a week behind on the videos, maybe even a week and a half. So it's really time that the videos have so much information for this marketing plan, and if you're watching this 2 weeks from now, it's not going to help you so much. So this is, I'm just going to do an overview of competition and competitive advantage. And it'll be short, it'll be relatively short. Let's see, though, the competitor, if you have your book, which you should have, you should be able to open it to page 75. So some of you already turned in, using the template, some form of a competitor analysis. I'm sure you need to do a little bit more work on that. In general, the kind of research that you can do both kinds of research on your competitor. You can go there, you can look at their menu, see what kind of demographics, the customers who go in there. Maybe it's not so easy with the corona, I don't know. But you can at least get a feel for how the process of the customer experience is. You can get a feeling for the staff and the training level of the staff. Do they know what they're doing? Are they sitting on their mobile phone? Do they pay attention to customers when they walk into the business? You can get a feeling for the locations that they're choosing, place. You can do pretty much, you can see their promotional strategy. You can understand them that way. So you can do almost every one of the P's from a primary research point, and of course, you can also use online reviews. Who doesn't miss that sound? That sound is so beautiful at this point. If you're doing secondary research, then you can look at the reviews of the competitors. You can look at their online presence. You can look at what they post, if anything, on YouTube. You can look at do they use apps? Do they have a delivery service? How do people meet them at the delivery service level? So you can see their distribution. You can also see their marketing and promotion. You can see the customer perception of value and quality, the complaints that customers have. So you have a lot of information you can get both ways, primary and secondary research. And then you should put this into a competitor profile. A lot of people make the mistake of choosing competitors that aren't really competitors. In other words, if you are starting a coffee shop somewhere, perhaps something that would be competitive with the coffee house, or something that's like, let's say, average price $30,000 or $40,000, which is what the customer wants to pay for that, then you aren't competing with Starbucks. Starbucks is not your competition. Your competition is the group of businesses that either are the same size, same location, same price. You know, within the market, price and quality. Price and quality are the main two factors that people look for. So you're starting with that. You may adjust it. You may find that, you know, there's some other competitors that you were surprised about. But in the coffee business, there's a bunch of them now. There's a bunch of coffee shops, whether it's a Laha or some La something Viet, or I don't know, or some of these Napoli or some Italian ones. Their price point is somewhere between 20 and 25. So there's a whole level there of local coffee shops, and then there's another level of coffee house and sit-down type of places. Used to be Urban Station and EFOC, which I used to like, EFFOC. They have the best frappuccinos that you can get in town, like real ones, not like with real coffee. It's really good. And so it's kind of, to me, it's that's a middle ground, that's a middle level kind of thing, 40,000 price point, and then you get over 50, 60,000, and then you're talking about Coffee Bean and Angel and Us and Starbucks, and that's even higher. So I think that you need to make sure you pick which real competitors you have. Don't pick just random companies that sell the same product as you. They have to be in the same, you know, they have to be competing for the same customers. And I would say you need at least 3. So if you only have 2, it's really not enough. Competitor profiling requires the business to collect information about competitors who are producing a similar good or service at a similar price and perception of value. A lot of information may not be available in the public domain. So, of course, if you're trying to analyze the company structure or some elements of how strong financially that company is, it's not going to be so easy to get private information from a private company. This is the reason why I didn't focus on doing a SWOT. You know, usually a SWOT, I mean, like people were thinking, you should do a PEST. PEST is, everybody can do that because you're analyzing the environment around you that affects all businesses, you know, laws and social trends, etc. So you can do a PEST because it's not specific to a business, but if you're going to analyze as a SWOT, S-W-O-T, you have to either have a history, so you know your own S, strengths, and weaknesses, W, or you have to be able to get special information about your competitors that you can understand their strengths and weaknesses. So as far as it goes, I didn't want to ask you to try to do that kind of research. I want you to do marketing research, not financial, for example. So I didn't ask you. You can and you should, as a real business, you should try to do a SWOT of your competitor to understand, for example, their financial strength, how much debt they have, whether their business is expanding or not, what their development plan seems to be. A basic competitor profile can be developed by doing a SWOT analysis. This will show the internal strengths and weaknesses and the external opportunities and threats for you and the competitor. The external threats are for both, usually. Another simple competitor breakdown was included in an earlier chapter of this unit. A simple competitor analysis, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so for example, things you can analyze on this list on page 75 is location. Location is not just to identify the address. Location means, is it a high traffic area? Is this a place where lots of people meet? Do they drive through and they get takeaway orders? Do they have good parking space? How much traffic goes by there? What kind of customers or what kind of people live in that area? Socioeconomic profile. So in other words, like what's the income level of the people in that area? Does it seem like more rich or poor, middle class, whatever? So the location has more than just an address. It has what's going on at that location. We know, for example, Highland Coffee, I didn't talk about them. Highland Coffee is pretty awful coffee. I mean, they should change the name to Awful Coffee. But their locations are always in a place, they were really quick and they were early in the market. So they have their coffee shops in very expensive hotels and office buildings, and they have great locations. So people don't go there for the coffee, they go there for the meeting point. To me, that's their competitive advantage, is their location allows people to identify it easily. I don't know if their food is any good, but I don't know, maybe they have a lunch menu. But I can't imagine they pay such high rent just on those kind of small lunch menus. Anyway, location for Highland Coffee would be like very high profile, you know, the kind of place that people use as a meeting point. They seem to have, they don't seem to have a lot of small ones, right? So now look at another place. You have Gouda Cafe. Gouda Cafe, they build their own little Goudas, like their little spaces. They don't really take up houses. They look for places where there's a little bit of open space in a parking garage or something, pay someone some rent, and they build a little, I guess you would call it a kiosk. A kiosk is like a little kind of building, tiny little building for selling things. And they build kiosks. They're building them all over the place. I think once they build, I don't know how much their investment is in building those things, but I suspect that they can move them if they need to move locations. Their rent's not very high. They have a nice blue and yellow logo, so they stand out. They seem to have lower opening hours, later opening hours compared to a lot of coffee shops. There's no interior because you don't sit there, everything is takeaway. So opening hours, that might be something that you might find there's differences between your competitors. Interior is just a general classification of, you know, comfortable, functional, good for about 20 minutes, a place you want to use your laptop, good for students, you know, sofas, chairs, table service, what's happening in the interior. Perceived quality, that's a judgment on you, what you think based on prices, what you think people think is the quality, and the expectation of the customer. Customer capacity, how many people? Capacity means how many customers can be in the business at any one time. Shop front, these are not limited, you know, there are other, you know, there are definitely other things that you can have here. Shop front, I guess you can comment about it, easy to locate, good colors, you can see from far away. There's some tables and chairs outside so people can sit outside if they want. Shop front, it displays, you can see inside, you cannot see inside. If there's, you know, maybe there's nothing to say about it. Promotions won't be one line. You'll be talking about their promotions, the different kinds of, do they, you know, what are they, you know, 2-for-1 specials, changing menus, loyalty cards. What do they do to promote their product? Do they have any street advertising? Maybe yes or no. Usually there's some, for a cafe, for example. Product line, what are the different products? And that also has to do, you know, you want to compare directly. If each cafe sells a cappuccino, you want to make a note that, you know, each one is selling a cappuccino and what's the price of each one, so you can get the price point of each one and compare directly. Let's see, what's another thing? Okay, so you have staff, you know, staffing. They should just say, like, probably people and how the people work there. I think, you know, we talk about the service level, not necessarily, they have 5 people. I don't know if that's useful. Comments about that, no. Your comments are about how the staff work and, you know, what's the level of service that you receive? Do you get you know, kind of customized service, or is it very general service? A lot of people complain on the internet about service. Business licenses, I'm not sure. The businesses have different licenses they need. I think most companies in the same industry, they have similar licenses. I'm not sure that you would need to do an evaluation of your competitors' licenses. What are some other things? You would want to know, you know, I would imagine, I think you can talk about process, you can put that in there. For example, when I go into Toko, or whatever it's called, I find I get quite annoyed that there are a lot of shippers in there at the same time, and I'm sure they're annoyed too. I'm not the only one, but it's kind of a competition between the shippers, and they have big orders, so you understand why the business cares about the shippers. I'm just a stupid guy who wants to have one bubble tea, and they're ordering for an office, and they're ordering 6 bubble teas, and so I can understand on one level why I'm less important, but they shouldn't mix the orders, because those orders take time to make, and I'm coming in. So if I go to the back of the line of the Toco Coco people, then that means that I might have to wait 20 minutes for one drink. And I think most of us as walk-in customers will not accept that. That's too long of a time to wait to get a drink. So I think in that case, you would have to evaluate, like, what happens now we have this big shipper thing. How does the business deal with the difference between the customers who are getting shippers and the customers who just walk in? Do they have a system? They should probably have 2 different lines for it, or put a priority on people who walk in and put the shipper, like, 1 minute later just to serve the customers who come in. But maybe that's not their priority, so you can figure that out. Then, if you did actually have the information, I'm on page 76, if you had more information and you had more time, you could probably come up and figure out some of these elements, such as the competitor's business profile. If you're a big company, like, you're in a multinational company, most of those companies are publicly owned anyway, so this information has to be public. So, if you're analyzing a private company, it's much harder. They don't have to show all the information. But anyway, if you were looking and you were competitive with, let's say, Sunsilk or whoever makes Sunsilk, you'd have to figure, you could look up the mission statement. You could try, and then that would help you, because the mission statement should reflect a little bit about their competitive advantage and their target goals. So you could maybe understand a little bit about their strategy. The ownership structure of the business, maybe CEO. Is there anything known about how the business was set up? That probably doesn't help you very much. Who are the main customers? That's important. Who are the business advisors? I don't know how you would find that out. Anyway, so basically it's like, those are just examples of things you might find out about your competitor to give you some idea about their strengths and weaknesses. Who makes the decisions in the business? Might be important for you, but actually, again, not for us today. The rest of it is. The rest of it is important. So you might include in your competitor profile would be important to say, what is their position? I mean, obviously you're choosing things that are next to you anyway, so most of them should be in the same position. What is their target market, and do they have a niche? So you could identify their competitive advantage. That's what you're trying to do there. What is their target market, and do they have a special competitive advantage or a niche in the market they're targeting? What is their branding? How strong is their branding? How much customer loyalty does the competitor achieve? So if the product is one that depends on repeat customers, you might try to figure out if the customers are loyal. And you would do that. If you have time, you can figure that out, right? You can find out how loyal they are. Or you can see me walking around with a Starbucks cup all day. What is their product range? Does it seem to suit the customers, or is there something missing in there that they are missing? There's some trend in the market they're missing. What is their product range? The range means the selection. What pricing strategies do they use? Are they using psychological pricing? Are they similar to their competitors, which is competitor pricing? Does it change? Do they have add-ons? I think with bubble tea, it's a real annoyance because you can think you're getting something really great for $55,000, but by the time they charge you for all the things that make it great, it could be $70,000, $75,000. What marketing strategies? In this case, they're really talking about promotion. That's a mistake. It should just say what promotional or distribution strategies. Operations. In this case, we have the processes. That's the second bullet point. How much product development and research and development do they do? That's the first bullet point. Do they have risk strategies? I think that's too complicated for you right now. But risk strategy would mean like how they manage their costs, you know, to you know, insurance and labor costs and things like that. Do they have any advantages of location? Okay, so what you know, is there anything they have in their location that you cannot get? How is the product or service distributed? Directly, through wholesalers, online, Amazon, shippers. You explain the distribution. Maybe you would ask questions about their, you know, the resource needs. Now, what that means, human resources would mean like maybe the skills of the workers, the skill level of the employees necessary for their business to be successful. Do they need high-skilled employees or low-skilled? Physical resources, I mean, that's money. You don't know. Do you know how much money they have? I don't know. So yeah, eventually if you were doing a real big business and you were able to see the finances that they have from their public, from their releases of their public information, you might be able to understand their finances. The companies, the reason why a public company means a company that's traded in the stock market. A reason why a public company has to reveal its financial information and company information is that the public is able to buy the stock. So would you buy something? As someone who can buy stock, would you buy something without knowing what's the position of the company, if they're in a good position or not? Of course not. So when a company goes public or enters the stock market, they make an agreement to share the information with the government and the public, because now you're the investor. And so as an investor, you're entitled to that information, or a potential investor. So I just wanted to highlight and review a few things about the competitor analysis so you analyze the right things. And this thing behind us here is generic strategy. Actually, let me just put this up here for 1 second. Here's another competitor analysis. Here they're just comparing some companies. There's some things that you might include. Company profile, how old. I think this is where the mission statement would be. What are they trying to do? They're trying to buy, you know, they get money from ads. Where do people get money from here? They're trying to offer training, so they're selling some kind of training. This competitive advantage of this company is that they have 2 million visitors per month on their website. Market information, same. Target market, different market share. Marketing strategy. Organic means that people mouth to mouth, you know, they share the, you know, they share the information from mouth to mouth. It's like viral marketing. They rely on friends, telling friends, and some Facebook ads. And these people have organic traffic per month online. Product information, what are the products? This is very limited, but it's just an example. Product information, you buy the courses 1 by 1. If you buy a subscription for a year, you can join all courses. In this case, it's $20 per course, and here it's $12 per month. Distribution channels, they chose affiliates. That means the relationships they have with some links, linking. And this company does not work with any links. You have to go directly to that company. What are the strengths of the business? Weaknesses, not as much content. Weakness of the other business, to improve content and keep up-to-date content is difficult. Opportunities, you could get more experts and become more specialized. Weakness is that, well, whatever, you could go into it. These are just 2 online education services. So this is, it's not a very good video. It's okay, I guess. But it gives you some comparison of what your, 2 businesses at the end that are explained. Okay, so I guess I'll put that one up. Now what this is Porter's generic strategies. As you know, the whole point of analyzing your competitors is so you can get a competitive advantage. So your goal is a competitive advantage. So in when you look at businesses, there are different generic or general strategies that companies use. And this video is just giving us some kind of overview of the strategies. Now remember, you're not allowed to have a competitive advantage based on price. So remember that.
Marketing business strategy. It's working with Michael Porter, Porter's generic strategies. Now, the challenge facing business leaders and marketers as they try to determine the most effective, successful strategy, of course, is how do you get a competitive advantage over the other firms that are operating in your market or industry. Porter did a lot of work on this area. In particular, he looked at the concept of competitive advantage and what strategies could be adopted that will be more likely to succeed. And in essence, he identified 2 broad approaches to how successful strategy could be determined. He argued that firstly, differentiation is a strategy, or secondly, low cost.
You can't do low cost, which is the same as low price, because you have a free market and you have the same available resources and suppliers as your competition. So you cannot use that. Your differentiation, you're the first strategy here.
Was a strategy, both of which could give a firm a competitive advantage. What do we mean by competitive advantage? Well, we're really looking at a sustainable advantage over the competition, not just a short-term thing. The ability of a business to organise itself and position itself in the market, and also make sure that its operations, all its supporting activities are geared towards offering value to customers that can't be beaten by the competition. That value might be through low prices, supported by low costs, or it could be that the value is perceived to be really high because the product or service is differentiated, it's highly differentiated, which enables the business to charge a higher price. And therefore, Porter's generic strategies essentially was around what are the sources of competitive advantage.
So just understand these 2 things first. Markets where the business competes, and these are basically meaning mass markets and niche markets. So if you're in a mass market situation, you can compete on cost. Because you can have economies of scale or different suppliers than your competition. But in general, you should not be thinking about, you're not a mass product, so that's impossible. And then the other one is a narrow focus, which would be for a niche market. So, and then in general, I'll just preview it real quick. If you're in mass market, and it says here, differentiation leadership, that means you're trying to be innovative and keep coming up with new Kit Kat flavors and new shampoo styles and different things that are gonna make the market, continue to build your name in the market as an innovator. But in this case, differentiation focus means to take one difference and that you have already established it and to keep driving it home, that you're the best at what that difference is between you and your competitors.
And I've summarised this and simplified it, of course, just to help make it easier to understand and apply. But essentially, he said there were two different types of advantage. One is differentiation, the second is low cost. So let's spend the rest of this short video just examining what we mean by low cost and differentiation. With low cost, the objective is to try to become the lowest cost operator in the market, in the industry. And typically what this involves is organising the business in such a way that it's able to achieve economies of scale. You'll remember from our revision video on economies of scale that these arise when unit costs fall as output increases. And economies of scale are a common feature, but not the only feature, of successful low-cost businesses. The reason why low cost is potentially a very important and powerful source of advantage is that, of course, if selling prices in the market are broadly similar, the business is able to operate at the lowest costs will be able to enjoy better profits per unit sold than the rest of the industry or competitors.
Standard product, branding, relatively unimportant, rice, toilet paper, whatever.
Similarly, if the lowest cost operator wishes to adopt a strategy of building market share, because its costs are low or lowest, it will be able to offer lower prices than the competition. And depending on the price elasticity of demand, that may allow it to grow market share. What kind of products is this suitable for? A low-cost strategy? Well, this has changed over the years, but it was often said that the best products for this were those which don't require much differentiation, don't require much personalisation, and potentially products where branding is less significant. We'll take a look at a few examples. But look out for the key features of low-cost operators. I've mentioned it's partly or to a large extent determined by the scale of the operation of the business. If the business is able to achieve high scale and high economies of scale, that will drive unit cost down. But that's not necessarily the only source of a low-cost advantage. It could be that the business is highly efficient. Perhaps it's invested significantly in automation, more so than the competition, which enables it to produce more efficiently. It could also be that it just has a low-cost culture, that it's implemented, for example, lean production methods, or it's found ways of eliminating cost and waste from all aspects of the operation. And it's often said that the best or the most effective low-cost operators, right down to the core of the business, have a culture of being low cost. And there are lots of examples out there of businesses that have built their reputations and market leadership around a low-cost operation. The classic ones and the low-cost airlines, of course, and in retail we've seen the emergence of a number of low-cost retailers who are able to offer lower prices.
So that's it. Airlines, you can see how they become low cost because they don't offer anything on the airplane. They charge you for anything extra, luggage, insurance, seat choice. So there's lots of things that you can pay for extra. But we don't really care about the airline, the branding. We just want to get to our destination. A 1 or 2 hour flight is easy enough to do without any extras.
Than the competition. But these aren't the only ones, of course. There's a great example in Aebme in China, which has been able to offer a much lower priced series of smartphones and tablets that have proved very effective in building its market share in China against the likes of Apple and Samsung. Let's move on to differentiation for a few minutes. What do we mean by differentiation? Well, the key here is not so much to gain advantage by having those costs, but it's to do so by having a product that is so differentiated and distinct compared with the competition that customers value that differentiation, they value the differences and are prepared to pay perhaps for that difference. And you might imagine there are a number of different ways of persuading customers that your product is in some way differentiated, different, and therefore better than the competition.
So, how do you differentiate? Every other way, except for price, right? Every other way. So here we go, product quality, features and benefits. Some examples: durability, lasts for a long time, branding, loyalty, people trust it, it's consistent, people recognize it. So that's also part of product. Distribution, they're available in the right way that the customers feel comfortable to order it. And also promotion. The offers that people make are attractive to customers. So everything else besides price in the marketing mix would be a differentiation strategy. That's your job.
One of the obvious ways is to have a product with superior quality, significantly better product benefits, maybe more reliable, it lasts longer, it has features and a wider range of features than the rest of the competition. It could be that the product is differentiated by way of its distinctive branding, which of course is a great source of competitive advantage for those able to build a brand and to sustain brand loyalty. But it can also be differentiated in terms of how easy it is to buy the product or service. And it may well be, for example, that the product is able to succeed because it's been made widely available across all different distribution channels. Lots of examples, of course, out there of each of those different sources of differentiation. Apple perhaps being the best example of a business that is able to achieve significant product differentiation built around its brand and a very high level of customer loyalty. The world's most profitable company must be differentiating its products, by definition almost. But there are also others. Of course, Dyson has been able to differentiate its product through significant advantage in product innovation and building a brand off the back of that. And you might also argue that even a hotel business like Premier Inn, whilst it is trying to operate at a lower cost segment compared with other hotel chains, the product itself is highly differentiated in terms of its offer of a good night's sleep. And of course, luxury brands. Many luxury brands, all luxury brands, aim to differentiate their products both in terms of perceived and actual quality. What Paul said was that those are the two key ways of gaining advantage: low cost and differentiation. But the danger is if you are neither low cost and neither highly differentiated, the danger is that you get stuck in the middle.
So yeah, that's what a lot of companies do. Maybe they don't seem really different, but they're also like the same price or maybe even slightly more expensive. So something's the same price, they're not really, the other brands are stronger than yours, or you just seem like you're just sitting there and nothing special about your product. You get stuck in the middle. You're not really drawing any difference and you're not really cheaper than the others.
And the problem of being stuck in the middle is that you are faced with competitors who have lower costs and therefore may be able to offer lower prices. And similarly, you are also faced with competitors who have a highly or more differentiated product or service, and therefore they're more likely to appeal to customers who value that differentiation. So Paul basically argued that businesses stuck in the middle between low cost and differentiation would be likely to suffer competitive disadvantage. And I guess we all have different views on this. Here are 4 examples of businesses who I think maybe have suffered from being stuck in the middle, certainly in recent years, partly because it's not always clear what the business stands for. Is it a low-cost operator or not? McDonald's, for example, has suffered from many quarters of stagnant and declining sales, particularly in its core US market, US fast food.
Stuck in the middle, that's a good, so Sony, they're not high quality, they're not high end, their TV is not so different from Samsung, they're just kind of sitting there, they're not, nobody thinks they're special anymore. McDonald's, yeah, you might have a craving or you might have had it before and you want to taste it again. But it's not really exciting anymore, and it's not really that much cheaper than some sandwich shops or something that's healthier food. So those are 2 examples that are stuck in the middle.
food market, as it's struggled to compete against fast food operators that are more clearly differentiated in the burger market. Sony has often been accused of lacking product differentiation. Similarly, Smiths and Morrisons, perhaps two examples of retailers in the UK who have struggled to maintain their share. Of course, it can now be argued, and it often is argued, that actually differentiation and low cost are not mutually exclusive. So a quick word about what's known as hybrid strategies. And this potentially is very powerful, isn't it? It's where the business is operating at low cost and therefore able to offer.
That's the best, right? Low cost and everybody thinks you're different from others. That's a winner. IKEA, very reasonable for shipping, storage costs, cheap. They make their products at low cost, they have low cost margins, and they sell high volume, so they get economies of scale. They also invest a lot in research and development, and they have interesting designs. They can change the product range for the local market. That means adaptation, you'll learn later. And they have a good target market that's very clear, like up in young families. So they're really hitting it. IKEA is the perfect spot in the market.
At low prices, but it also has a proposition that is pretty clearly differentiated, and therefore has all the benefits of differentiation, including brand loyalty, brand awareness. And I think IKEA is a great example of that. The value proposition from a customer point of view is that you're buying low price goods, but generally of good quality, reliable if you can put them together, and with a certain style. But it's also differentiated in terms of its design, in terms of who the customer, the target customer is, and also IKEA has differentiated its products by localizing the product ranges in each of its international markets. So look at the hybrid strategies where a business is operating at low cost, but it also attempts to gain the benefits of differentiation. That's been a brief introduction to Porter's.
So anyway, yeah, that is a brief introduction. So competitor analysis and some ideas about competitive advantage and just how how it's related to cost and why I didn't allow you to do price as a competitive advantage. Everybody have a good weekend.